Hello and welcome to Kent Tonight, live here on KMTV. I'm Finn McDermott and here are your top stories on Monday, the 24th of November. Budget 1 year later. Gillingham small business owners call for reform of national insurance employer contributions.
Not even the NI, the pension, everything went up. So, yeah, honestly, if government can look at it and see what they can do for us.
Fine frustration. Shoppers say parking payment problems at Pentagon Shopping Centre in Chatham could hurt the town's tourism.
Really, there isn't any excuses. The machine should work. End of story.
And we stand together. Canterbury Church hosts Holodomor Remembrance Service.
I think it's important for us to remember because it helps us to acknowledge the lives, the millions of lives that were lost.
But first, our top story this evening. Small business owners in Gillingham are calling on the government to make significant changes to national insurance employer contributions. This is all ahead of Wednesday's budget. Now, rumours have been swirling around the contents of the government's financial plans for the coming year. As our reporter Megan Shaw's been finding out, there are plenty of questions those in Kent have for the Chancellor.
Last year, the Labour government unveiled their first budget of this Parliament, met with mixed opinions and controversy. One of the Chancellor's measures that caused a stir was raising employers' national insurance contributions. From April this year, the rate for these contributions increased from 13.8% to 15%, as well as the threshold to start paying these decreasing from £9,100 to £5,000 each year. This approximated that employers would be paying an extra £900 for each employee. Rachel Reeves explained she needed to make difficult decisions to balance the books.
But we're not in Parliament now, and I'm here in Gillingham to find out what Kent residents really feel.
Baruch Kapoor has owned Oasis Cafe in Gillingham for 25 years, with his business experiencing problems since 2020. Raising NI contributions came at a terrible time.
Last year, the government changed national insurance, so employers like you had to pay much more?
Yes, it's more. Yes, of course. Everything is going more difficult now. Everything's going up. I don't know. I am struggling now. I decided I don't know what can I do. All the taxes, something like that, though, but I don't know where is the money is going. Look at this in our promises.
Likewise, Amir Kuti, who owns Patiri Restaurant in Gillingham, is already struggling against a tide of rising costs and flagging footfall.
Yes. Expensive, more expensive. Last year also is going the wages.
Unistar Health Consultants is owned by Eunice, who is calling on the government to sympathise with owners like her this Wednesday.
It has been going up. Well, it went up last year and we're not sure. The budget is on the way now, so we're not sure if it's going to all go up again. But definitely, it really affected the business last year. So everything went up, not even the NI, the pension, everything went up. So, yeah, honestly, if government can look at it and see what they can do for us. Yeah, honestly, because the small businesses, we are really struggling.
I don't think anybody expected an increase in employers' national insurance contributions, and that has massively affected the appetite of businesses to grow. So it'd be interesting to see if they do make a change on that. I certainly think that it has been a break on what they call growth. I think growth for growth's sake is pretty meaningless, but we need a healthy economy.
But with the budget round the corner, all councillors, small business owners and residents alike can do is wait. Megan Shaw for KMTV in Gillingham.
To tell us more about this budget, I'm joined by our reporter Naila Mohammed. So, first of all, for anyone who isn't too familiar with the budget, can you summarise what we might expect?
So the autumn budget is the annual statement from the UK government that outlines their planned spending for the foreseeable future. And it's one of two major financial announcements in the financial year, the other being the spring statement. And the autumn budget is to be said on Wednesday by Chancellor Rachel Reeves, as you can see on the screen there. And there's a lot of speculation about what's going to be discussed during the budget, particularly around increasing taxes aimed at stabilising the nation's economy and finances.
I see. And ahead of the actual announcement, we won't know for certain what's going to be said.
Right.
But have our political experts or anyone on the inside told us or hinted at anything that we could expect?
So Rachel Reeves is expected to unveil measures designed to reduce the need for future demands for taxpayers. One of this being reportedly she is favouring extending the existing freeze on the income tax threshold as opposed to increasing the income tax. Another thing is she will be freezing rail fares as a way to ease the cost of living. And also she'll be freezing the cost of NHS prescriptions to £9.90. And also she will be expected to scrap the two-child policy.
I see, yes. So we'll know for certain come Wednesday. Tell me, what does this mean for people in Kent? What's going to be the local impact on workers and families?
So what I've not mentioned yet is this so-called mansion tax, which is where properties valued at over £2 million will pay an extra tax on that certain property. And residents across the county have called it the South East tax, which is just another tax, another bit of finance that they will have to pay for being a resident of the South East, because, you know, a lot of properties across the county are some of the higher value properties. And so there are fears that many of these cash poor homeowners across Kent are going to be left facing bills that they just cannot afford. I mean, like I said, in theory, it will be for properties valued at over £2 million. However, there are concerns that thousands of people are unaware of or wouldn't consider themselves to be wealthy or consider their property to be valuable to that extent. And, you know, across the South East, house value has dramatically increased due to a surge in the market.
I see. Thank you so much for bringing us all this news, and we'll hear more about this, obviously, when the budget does come out. Next, shoppers at Chatham's Pentagon Shopping Centre have found out they've been charged for parking when using the ANPR system due to a technical error. The centre say they are trying to reduce the amount of these errors by upgrading their system and that any issues are irregular. Well, I went down to Chatham to investigate more. Shoppers in the Pentagon in Chatham have been seeing issues with the parking machines, with some even being issued incorrect fines. This all comes from a connection issue with the cameras and payment machines, where some registration details weren't being collected properly, meaning drivers would have to have put their details in manually without them actually knowing they had to.
We came in here about a month ago. In fact, I can tell you the exact date. It was the 25th of October. And on that particular day, the machines didn't know what time you came in, so they were down. Apparently they were offline. So everyone was queuing and not knowing what to do, but we paid our ticket anyway, and I said to my wife, I bet we get a ticket through. And sure enough, we got this ticket through. Really, there isn't any excuses. The machine should work. End of story.
He added that he doesn't want the issue to keep happening as it's happened for long enough, and that for those who are vulnerable or maybe elderly, they might struggle to pay the fine. Now, this issue of the registration details not being automatically registered won't necessarily lead to a fine, but around 7% of drivers have been affected by this issue, and this has gone down to 3% this month, and the operator, Hoser, hopes this will be reduced to a further 1% by the end of November. And the Pentagon management team have added that they're committed to upgrading their service so that this happens less and less. Pentagon Shopping Centre manager Charlene Malone said occasionally with ANPR technology these types of errors can occur. Fortunately, through our partnership with Hoser, we can cancel any fines our customers receive because of these occasional issues. To date, the problem has been limited to a small number of users, and every visitor who has notified us of difficulties using the machines has had their fine promptly cancelled. We take this matter seriously and are committed to ensuring visitors can use the car park with complete confidence once the final upgrades are complete. Richard added that he hopes the Pentagon will sort the issue before it begins to hurt the reputation of the high street or drives people away from making the trip to the town in the first place. Finn McDermott for KMTV in Chatham. Next, a New Romney mum who stabbed another parent in front of her children has been spared prison. Carrie-Anne Kilshaw attacked Makala O'Brien outside her home in the East Kent town nearly 2 years ago. The 40-year-old had been hosting a birthday party for one of her children, of which Miss O'Brien's daughter had been invited. But after a misperceived accusation over a missing tablet, Kilshaw confronted her victim before punching her several times while holding a knife. At Canterbury Crown Court, she was handed an 18-month suspended sentence, but O'Brien says she has been left with scars both to body and to mind. Next, the RSPCA are calling for support after a rise in animals have been seen abandoned and dumped in Kent. The figures show in the first 10 months of 2025, incidents have risen by almost 6%. The charity has launched their new campaign, The Big Give Back to Animals, in hopes that they can raise funds for frontline officers. Well, we spoke with Chris O'Brien, who's from the organisation earlier, more about this appeal and what exactly it'll mean for our animals here in Kent. Let's have a quick look at that now.
We are under a lot of pressure at the moment. A lot of our centres are full to bursting. Branches across Kent are working incredibly hard for animals out there on the front line. And it's a tough time for our inspectorate and our officers. We're seeing a lot of calls coming in, rising number of abandonment calls, and they're there to specialise in those calls of the most serious types of cruelty and neglect. It's what they do. And unfortunately, we are seeing really, really big numbers. It's why this appeal is really, really important, because we need to fund and get resources out to the front line. We also need to spread awareness in terms of the correct way to look after animals. We know most people in Kent will be as shocked with these figures as we are and know how to look after the animals. And we're relying on those people to help us spread the message and say abandoning an animal is never acceptable.
Coming up, we're speaking to the Kent schoolgirl who's featured in a rather popular new film musical. And we'll also have the latest sport, weather and more stories from across the county. Like I say, some sports news there from Gillingham to Ebbsfleet. We're covering it all. But yeah, we'll see you after this very short break. Hello and welcome back to Kent Tonight Live here on KMTV. Now, the blockbuster sequel, Wicked for Good, will no doubt leave many of us Kent film goers following the yellow brick road to the nearest cinema. But for one Cox Heath schoolgirl, she's already been to Oz and back. Matilda Williams from the Maidstone Village is in the new film and defied the after-school traffic to come into our studio and talk about filming with superstars like Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande. Let's have a listen of that interview now. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Matilda. And first of all, where did this all start? How did you get involved in the filming in the first place?
It's a really fun story because basically I went to this drama club and they had these auditions going on. So I went to the auditions thinking I would get in a TV show, a movie or an advert. And then I did the audition. Then like a couple months later, when it was May, we got a phone call before we were about to go somewhere. And they said that I'd been chosen to be in Wicked for Good, and it was insane. I was just so happy, but like it's really annoying since you can't like tell anybody about it.
So you sort of had to keep it to yourself for a while?
Yeah.
Okay, and when did that change? When were you able to tell people?
I mean like November, really.
What was that like to tell people? Did people believe you?
No. Obviously not. Like no. It's like a really big shock to go into school and say, I'm in a major film. Like it's very hard for people to believe you. Like I wouldn't believe someone if they said that.
Brilliant. And tell us, what was filming like? Tell us about the sets, the costumes.
Oh, it was so cool. Like set looked so beautiful. There was like macarons and fake food. There was a cherry blossom tree. There was a balcony. There was a massive green screen, and it was really, really cool.
Brilliant. And did you get to meet did you meet Ariana? Did you meet
Yeah, I did.
Cynthia? Tell us about what that was like.
Oh, it was so cool. We were coming back from lunch the day before, or the same day, I can't really remember. We had said to John Chu, can you tell Ariana Grande that we want to see her tomorrow? And he was just like, I'm not sure. So then we sent her a video and she said, and then we didn't hear what she said. But the next day we were about to walk up to set, we'd just had lunch, and out of nowhere she was just there, and it was so insane and it was really cool.
Brilliant. Now, I haven't seen the film, I'll hold my hands up, but, and no spoilers for any of you out there, spoiler warning ahead, what was the scene like? I'm aware it's a birthday party scene.
It's really cool. So basically, young Galinda opens her birthday present and it's a magic wand, and we're all just like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. And then she's just like, I'm going to try and do some magic with it. And we're just like, yeah, okay. She tries to do some magic, but she can't do it because she has no real power. And we're just like, ugh. And basically, coincidentally, a rainbow appears out of nowhere. And two of the children from filming say, did you make that? And she's just like stuttering. Then her parents come in and they're just like, yeah, she did. So we will like have to like celebrate, and we run up to the rainbow, and it's just really cool.
That sounds brilliant. Sounds like a great experience to be part of. And tell us a bit about your costume. Obviously, you've got your sparkly top on now. Yeah. Is that a reference to what you were wearing during the filming?
Not really, okay. No.
What would talk us through? What were you wearing?
It was basically like a creamy white dress, and I had little flower hair, and my hair was all crazy and really, really curly. Like the dress was really wavy, and it was really, really pretty.
Brilliant, brilliant. Tell us a bit about that movie making experience. So what was it? What was a typical day like? Would you go in straight away, or did it take a long time? Talk to us about that.
It took a really long time. It was 10 hours. 10
hours?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So basically we went up to set, and but we didn't go up to set first. We went into the green room, and we had to stay there for like an hour. And then they brought us up to put on our costumes, and then like we went up to set, did a few takes, but the cameras weren't there. And then we did more and more and more takes for like 2 hours. Then we had lunch, and then we went back up. That's when we met Ariana Grande, and then we just did more filming. Brilliant. And I think we haven't got much time left, but what was it like seeing yourself on the big screen? I almost started crying. It was so cool. That's amazing. Well, I think that is about all the time we have, but thank you so much. And yeah, all the best. I hope it was as great an experience as it sounds. It was.
Now, from football to failure at the cricket ground and in the ring, let's have a look at the weekend's sporting action. Well, draw for the Gills this weekend as they hosted Barnet. That was at home, obviously, with the main bright spot being a marvellous goal from Dak. Now, some fans might have thought they were back in the 2016-17 season, seeing Dak hit a free kick right into the top corner to level the score before the death of the first half. And while it was a great moment, unfortunately, the squad simply couldn't find the net in the second half, ending 1-1. Dak said, "It's nice to show my experience on the pitch, trying to fix problems, find solutions during the game, and I've enjoyed it." Now to rugby, and it was a Kent derby with Gravesend securing back-to-back wins in the Regional 2 South East with a 15-11 victory against Dartfordians. The Darts drew first blood within 15 minutes with their winger taking a quick ball from a line-out and dashing in for a try. But Gravesend didn't take long to respond, with Stan Dadson taking a collected ball and bringing it closer. Both sides did miss their conversions but scored penalties, giving the score of 8-all at the break. After an infringement, Dartfordians took 3 points for an 11-8 lead, but Gravesend managed to score a try and a conversion to secure the comeback victory. Next, Maidstone's Sam Noakes was beaten on points after taking Abdullah Mason through a 12-round war for the World Boxing Lightweight Championship in Saudi Arabia this weekend. Now, this does mean that Noakes lost his unbeaten record after 17 straight victories. But to challenge for the title and fight a full 12 rounds is commendable, while Mason extended his perfect record to 20-0. Mason won by unanimous decision, one judge scoring 117-111, while the other two pegged it as being a bit closer, with only a 2-point difference. And finally to cricket, where Kent batsman Ben Compton has commented on his strong season, overseas cricket and supporting his county teammate Zach Crawley at the Ashes. Compton was the second highest run scorer in the County Championship Division 2. Despite the team coming bottom of the table, he still got more than 1,300 runs. He says he credits a lot of his success to the off-field work he's done in South Africa, saying he's constantly pushing himself and challenging himself in the country. It's Division 1 cricket out there. I'm playing against half the South African players every other week. Meanwhile, he says he's behind Crawley and the England squad, who suffered a defeat against Australia in the first test. That's all for your sports bulletin. Now remember, you can keep up to date with all the latest news across the county by going onto our website, where you can watch all our stories, including this one about a report on the new Renters' Rights Bill.
A new law has been passed to make it easier for tenants in private rental properties to keep pets, by preventing landlords from denying responsible renters without a valid reason. Dee Bonnet, whose campaign led Maidstone Council to allow pets in temporary accommodation, knows firsthand the difference this kind of change can make.
Some people don't want to be pet owners, they don't want that responsibility, but they love pets. So the guy, or Rocky's dad, obviously, owns Rocky, and the other two guys here, they may not want that responsibility, but they love having Rocky around. So, you know, if one of them's left in the house and they're with Rocky, that's the company, the love, and, you know, Rocky doesn't want anything apart from being fed, being warmed and being loved, you know, and he gives so much love back, as you've seen this afternoon.
He's been really good for my recovery. Yeah, if I didn't have him, I'd feel worthless, you know, because I've lost everything and he's basically my family.
But is this new law something that everyone agrees with?
Yeah, I think renters should definitely have the right to have an animal or a pet. It's good for well-being, it's good for the children, and I think it's part of your rights as a tenant to be able to have a pet, definitely.
It's a case for a conversation, really. I know now things are so impersonal because you go through the agents and so on, and the agents do most of the vetting before you actually even have a chance to talk to the prospective tenant.
I agree with that. I was going to say my mother lived in a warden-assisted place, and they weren't allowed to have pets, and I thought that was a bit terrible, as she owned the property as well.
Although people say that this is a positive change, those at the Kenwood Trust say that while it is a step in the right direction, that there's still a long way to go.
For us, we would be keen to explore other ways of increasing the amount of supported accommodation, social housing, where pets are able to access that sort of accommodation. I think that's really important, that people can access the accommodation, all types of accommodation, whether that be private rented, social housing, supported accommodation, and have access to their animals still. It's really important for us all to consider ways that can be improved moving forward.
While the new law has been welcomed by campaigners and animal charities, questions remain over how it will work in practice. But for those like Wayne, having a pet is already making a world of a difference. Kristen Hawthorne for KMTV, Maidstone.
Now it's time to take a quick look at the weather. Well, tonight it looks like it's going to be a bit of a partly cloudy night, quite fast winds there at 22 miles per hour. Going into tomorrow morning, quite cold, 4 degrees in most areas, highs of 6 in Dover. Then into tomorrow afternoon, keeping those high wind speeds, temperatures rising slightly to 6 and 7. Then into your outlook. Starting off colder on Wednesday, 7 degrees, but by the time we get to Friday, it's going to be heating up to 12 with some rain. We'll be back in a few moments' time with a look back at our top story. We'll also be talking to Ollie Leader with more political news. All that and more after this short break. Hello and welcome to Kent Tonight, live here on KMTV. I'm Finn McDermott and here are your top stories on Monday, the 24th of November. Budget 1 year later. Gillingham small business owners call for reform of national insurance employer contributions. Fine frustration. Shoppers say parking payment problems at Pentagon Shopping Centre in Chatham could hurt the town's tourism. And we stand together. Canterbury Church hosts Holodomor Remembrance Service. But first, a look back at our top story. Small business owners in Gillingham are calling on the government to make significant changes to national insurance employer contributions ahead of Wednesday's budget. Now, rumours have been swirling around the contents of the government's financial plans for this coming year. As Megan Shaw's been finding out, there are plenty of questions those in Kent have for the Chancellor.
Last year, the Labour government unveiled their first budget of this Parliament, met with mixed opinions and controversy. One of the Chancellor's measures that caused a stir was raising employers' national insurance contributions. From April this year, the rate for these contributions increased from 13.8% to 15%, as well as the threshold to start paying these decreasing from £9,100 to £5,000 each year. This approximated that employers would be paying an extra £900 for each employee. Rachel Reeves explained she needed to make difficult decisions to balance the books.
But we're not in Parliament now, and I'm here in Gillingham to find out what Kent residents really feel.
Farooq Kapoor has owned Oasis Cafe in Gillingham for 25 years, with his business experiencing problems since 2020. Raising NI contributions came at a terrible time.
Last year, the government changed national insurance, so employers like you had to pay much more.
Yes, it's more. Yes, of course. Everything is going more difficult now. Everything's going up. I don't know. I am struggling now. I decided I don't know what can I do. All the taxes, something like that, though, but I don't know where is the money is going. Look at this in our promises.
Likewise, Amir Kuti, who owns Patiri Restaurant in Gillingham, is already struggling against a tide of rising costs and flagging footfall.
Yes. Expensive, more expensive. Last year also used to go in the wages.
Unistar Health Consultants is owned by Eunice, who is calling on the government to sympathise with owners like her this Wednesday.
It has been going up. Well, it went up last year and we're not sure, the budget is on the way now, so we're not sure if it's going to all go up again. But definitely, it really affected the business last year. So everything went up, not even the NI, the pension, everything went up. So, yeah, honestly, if government can look at it and see what they can do for us, yeah, honestly, because the small businesses, we are really struggling.
I don't think anybody expected an increase in employers' national insurance contributions, and that has massively affected the appetite of businesses to grow. So it'd be interesting to see if they do make a change on that. I certainly think that it has been a break on what they call growth. I think growth for growth's sake is pretty meaningless, but we need a healthy economy.
But with the budget round the corner, all councillors, small business owners and residents alike can do is wait. Megan Shaw for KMTV in Gillingham.
Next, there's more drama at County Hall as a senior Reform cabinet member has faced calls to resign over a threat about punching he made on WhatsApp. Transport portfolio holder Peter Osborne says while the message was produced in frustration rather than anger, there's never an excuse for violence. But the leader of the opposition has slammed the exchange as shocking. Our local democracy reporter Ollie Leader joined us on the sofa with the details earlier. So Ollie, break down exactly what's happened here.
Well, Finn, it's more drama at Kent County Council. It's all off the back of the infamous video, we've all seen it, of Linton Cam Karen, the leader of Kent County Council, berating members on a Zoom call. This was leaked by The Guardian. She's seen swearing, and obviously it caused a bit of a media whirlwind, which brings us to this message that was on the big screen right here. It's Peter Osborne in a big group chat of dozens of Reform members saying that if the mole was a bloke, he'd punch him right in the jaw. Pretty shocking stuff, according to the opposition leader, Anthony Hook. He's a Liberal Democrat. He's called for Peter Osborne, who is currently the cabinet member for transport, to step down. This broke over the weekend, and it's a pretty sizable story in an ongoing series of scandals at KCC.
Absolutely. And what has Peter Osborne himself said on the matter?
Well, Peter Osborne says that the comments were made out of frustration rather than malice. It's never an excuse for violence. That was never his intention. That's what he says. It was made out of frustration at the circumstances. Obviously, lots of reform people, they believe that the last couple of weeks have been a distraction from their mission of running Kent County Council, ensuring adult social care and SEND needs are met, and of course fixing potholes across the county. That's a big priority for Peter Osborne. So everyone thinks it's a bit of a distraction what's been happening in the media, and obviously there was that series of suspensions from the party and the whip being removed, and obviously members even being kicked out of the party as a result of all of these leaks. Obviously, when I spoke to the leader, she says this matter's kind of closed now, that she's dealt with it effectively, that they're leaner and stronger for it as a party, but this shows there's still some drama behind the scenes and some unhappy voices within Reform UK at the leadership.
Unhappy voices there in Reform, but what's being said on the other side of the council? What are opposition councillors saying?
Well, that's Anthony Hook. He called for Peter Osborne to resign, to step down from his role. There's an understanding that Kent Police were contacted over a separate violent message from an elected member, but decided not to proceed with an investigation. So there are other things happening at play here, but the general feeling is that this sort of behaviour isn't acceptable within the council from the opposition, but the people like Peter Osborne, they would say this wasn't never a serious threat. This is just a sign of the frustration at the infighting that's kind of torn apart the group, and they're hoping they can put behind when that's going forward as the party in charge at Kent's largest authority.
I see. Thank you so much for bringing us this story, Ollie. Next, organisers of a Canterbury Remembrance Service held in memory of millions of Ukrainians who were starved to death by the Soviet regime say it's important to also recognise those struggling in the current country presently. The man-made famine known as the Holodomor caused the deaths of approximately 3.5 million people in 1932 and 33. But for decades, it wasn't widely known. But Ukrainians mark a Remembrance Day every year on the 4th Saturday of November. On the 92nd anniversary of the atrocity, our community reporter Henry Luck has been to Canterbury to learn more about this dark chapter.
Holodomor, meaning death by hunger, was a famine that remains with many Ukrainian people almost a century since it happened. The people of Canterbury and Ukrainians have gathered at St. Peter's Methodist Church to pay their respects to those who died during the Holodomor in the 1930s.
I think it's important for us to remember because it helps us to acknowledge the lives, the millions of lives that were lost. And also it reminds us the importance of us not to allow such things to happen again. And Canterbury has a thriving Ukrainian community. They're part of our community, and I want us to be able to recognize and support them in this time.
This Holodomor experience is also made up of the Canterbury for Ukraine Ladies Choir, who have come to unite in strength through the power of music despite the terrible times of war.
Since getting to know the Ukrainians, I understand how important this history of the famine is. I myself am an Irish woman, and I grew up with stories of the Irish famine, so I can identify and empathise with those stories of the famine in Ukraine. And it is very much about having empathy with people.
As well as music, candles were also used to remember those who died many years ago.
So we keep this, it's a new tradition. We didn't have it before. It was brought to Ukraine by an American person to whom we are eternally thankful. he said actually once, "Your dad chose me." And those are the words which are put on his grave in Kiev when he died in 2004, I think.
The people of Ukraine and Canterbury hope the flames of the victims will always be in the hearts and minds of those who have come to remember Holodomor. Henry Luck for KMTV in Canterbury.
Now, we've been hearing the news that another protest is set to take place at Napier Barracks, even though all asylum seekers living there are being moved out later this year. Police say they will have sufficient resources in place for the Stop the Boats March in Folkestone on Saturday. The rally, which UKIP leader Nick Tenconi is set to attend, is expected to be met by a counter-demonstration. Next month, the site, used to house asylum seekers since 2020, is set to close down for good ahead of being turned into housing. The Home Office confirmed on October 22nd it will be empty by December 31st. Next, Grammy-nominated band Bastille have announced a huge outdoor concert next summer. The indie pop band will perform a one-off headliner show on Dreamland's scenic stage on August 22nd. The announcement comes off the back of their recent sold-out arena tour from all sides, marking the group's first live performances after a 2-year break. Since performing in 2020, the Brit Award winners have sold more than 13 million records. Tickets go on sale Friday, November 28th at 10 a.m. Now it's time for a very quick break. See you in just a few minutes. Hello and welcome back to Kent Tonight, live here on KMTV. Well, residents and volunteers are celebrating after Faversham gains gold after being voted Best Large Town in South and South East in the Bloom Award, with judges noting the town's strong environmental ethos and bee-friendly planting. Kent Online reporter Davina joined me earlier to tell us more on what it takes to be award-winning. First of all, what's been the reaction from the judges at Bloom?
They were full of praise. They noted the town's charm, community engagement and innovative approaches to gardening in challenging conditions. They said their visit left them with a strong impression of a delightful historic town with well-maintained buildings and a community that strives to support each other, ensure that the local environment is as pleasant as possible. As well as the main award, other local groups received outstanding awards too.
Amazing. And did the judges say there was anything that particularly stood out to them, any particular gardens or flowers in Faversham?
Yep, so their Abbey Physic Community Garden was described as a real gem for the town, and the Stonebridge allotments, with their unique island layout, were described as one of the most attractive allotment sites the judges had ever seen. The judges were also particularly impressed by the community's resilience after a summer full of heat waves and water shortages. They encouraged further creativity in sustainable gardening practices.
Well, that's great. And I suppose, what does this all mean for Faversham as a whole?
So Faversham and Bloom chairman Ted Wilcox said it's a major honour for the town. He said it was a reflection of the teamwork and dedication of everyone involved, and that it shows what can be achieved when people come together and care for their town.
Tell us a bit about your favourite flower. Do you have one?
Oh, I would have to say peonies. Not sure why, I just think they look really nice in photos and I like how full they are.
Nice. I like daffodils.
Very good one.
Yeah, thank you. A bit basic, but I think they do the job. Cool. All right, thank you so much for your time, Davina. Now, I'm not going to expand on what I meant by daffodils do the job, but since we're talking about flowers, from flora to fauna, Kent's winter wonderland is full of wildlife at this time of year, despite the freezing temperatures. So, who better to examine our glorious Garden of England than our resident environmental expert, that is, of course, Daisy Page. So, Daisy, you're a keen wildlife photographer. Tell us, even during the winter months, and as we can see here actually during this photo, you're I think the term is twitcher, a keen twitcher. What kind of birds can we expect to see in our back gardens this year?
Yeah, so from back gardens, and if you don't have a garden, out the window or your local parks, some of the smaller birds that we can be seeing is house sparrows. Now these are commonly found near estates because that's where they get their name from, house sparrows. They like to nest nearby or in the roofs as well. One of my personal favourites is the robin. You should be seeing lots of those. Also, they come out in the colder months. That's why we start to see them on our Christmas cards and any Christmas decoration. Even bedding nowadays, it's getting quite popular to have a robin out. And another one that you can start to see as well is the blackbird. Now, it's actually a blackbird that we've got on screen here. Juvenile, this was actually taken during springtime. That's why we can see the green leaves. But if you want to encourage these birds into your area, what I would say is put some food out for them. You can always research what different birds like. I know robins near me love mealworms. It's a nice fatty food for them. So I tend to put lots of those out for them because during the colder months, especially robins, they can lose weight during the cold evenings. But the important thing to note is when you are feeding these birds, don't stop feeding when we get to summer because food shortages can happen at any time. So if you're going to feed these birds, make sure that you're feeding them regularly and just not to stop feeding them at all. And another thing to remember is fresh water. Providing fresh water, if you're putting out fresh water, clean the bowls just to make sure that we're not spreading anything between them.
Amazing. We haven't got too much time, but tell us, is it migratory season? Are the birds coming? Are they going?
It's a bit of both. So along our Kent coast, we'll start to see some fabulous birds like curlews. One of my favourite is a goose. Now, you don't expect to see a goose waddling along the beach, but we get something called a Brent goose here. They travel miles to come here during winter to feed and gain that nutrients from our mud flaps on the beaches.
Right, I see. Well, I've just learned a new word there, curlew. Is that right, curlew?
Yep, curlew, that's a bird.
Brilliant, I'll start using that. Thank you so much, Daisy, for telling us all about some birds. Very interesting facts there. Now, don't forget you can keep up to date with all your latest stories across Kent by logging on to our website. That is, of course, kmtv.co.uk. There you'll find all our reports, including this one about lorries causing traffic concerns around Maidstone. Let's have a look. Locals living on Heath Road in Bolton-Monchelsea near Maidstone usually expect it to be a quiet area, with only a farm shop and a goat sanctuary nearby. But locals say that lorries going down the 30-mile-an-hour road faster than they should is creating a nightmare, disrupting their sleep and their peace and quiet.
Certainly down the end of the road where there's crossroads, five ways, two articulated lorries can't get past each other. So everybody has to back up, which is ridiculous for well, it's supposed to be a B road, but it's treated as an A road. There's the traffic along here, particularly now that there's roadworks along the Lewes Road and the Linton Hill. It's just ridiculous. As you can see, to be honest, we don't normally get this amount of traffic, but it is just ridiculous.
Now they say they're being treated to a Grand Prix of lorries. Constant noise, which is keeping them awake and even shaking their houses. And you can't quite see it from here, but just behind me there's a long queue of traffic. And this is probably the first time I've ever heard people saying they actually like the traffic because it slows these lorries down. So how bad must the noise be for them to actually like having traffic in their area? One local has even taken matters into his own hands to understand just how fast the vehicles are going.
The first thing I did was to obtain a calibrated camera from the parish council, which was provided by the police, just to get a bit of an objective measure as to actually, what does this speeding constitute? What are the actual numbers? That filming was done about 10:15. From about 11 onwards, it may as well be a drag strip, because sometimes lorries I've clocked going past at 60 miles an hour, which is double the speed limit and dangerous driving.
In terms of a solution, local councillors aren't giving up, coming up with ideas they're trying to get passed by officials.
We're trying to put either a speed bump or even paint showing people that they really need to slow down, and we would like a SID, a speed indicator device, that's actually showing people at what speed they are doing, and with a smiley face and a down face, so they're actually aware of what they're doing, because often they're just following the traffic and not realising at what speed they're going at.
Police Sergeant Paul Cook said in response to concerns raised by residents of Bolton Monchelsea, local beat officers have been carrying out high-visibility patrols to act as a deterrent for speeding and other traffic offences. We will continue to proactively target those who put other road users at risk and urge motorists to drive responsibly to protect themselves and others. Speed limits are limits, not targets. Until a permanent solution is found, local residents will have to hope that the lorries will keep to their speed and that it won't be a long road until the problem is fixed. Finn McDermott in Bolton Monchelsea for KMTV. Now it's time to take a quick look at the weather. And we can see temperatures of around 5, 6 and 7 this evening. High wind speeds there as well. Tomorrow morning, a bit more sunny, 4, 5 and 6. High there in Margate and Dover. Then into tomorrow afternoon, some cloud will come, particularly covering areas of Canterbury, Ashford and Maidstone, staying 6 and 7 there. Then throughout your week, starting off with 7 degrees and some sun behind the clouds, some rain on Friday, temperatures of 12. Now, coming up after the break is another episode of Invicta Sport. But before we go, let's take a look back at this weekend's football results. Welcome to this week's football roundup. First off, we're heading to North Kent to see Ebbsfleet meet Chesham. Now, the Fleet have been reasonably on form, winning 4 of their last 6 matches, while Chesham have only won 2 of their last 6. It's a strong start for the home side, who challenged the keeper early with some shots, and only 13 minutes in, and they've put themselves 1-0 up. Kwesi Appiah's chipped into the box, finding Peake, who just lays it to Barnes, and what a strike. Controlled, but powerful to open the scoring. And Alfie Williams' slip-up there might have him red in the face, but the jeering of the crowd has soon turned to stunned silence as Adebayi puts a header in past Matt Hall, making his debut between the posts. Then into the next half, and the Fleet managed to see off a chance that could have lost them the game there, but they worked the ball to the right side. Charlie Seaman putting a cross in, skips past Barnes and is hit in by Cosgrove to put them up 2-1, lacking from the Chesham defence. Next, Cosgrove breaks away from the defence, heading towards goal, and he's brought down by a Chesham defender. A risky challenge there, and the ref blows for a free kick on the edge of the box, which goes over the bar. Well, with the final whistle going, it looks like Ebbsfleet managed to pull off a mid-table victory, climbing higher to a potential playoff place. Well, elsewhere in the National League South, Tunbridge Angels fell to earth with a 1-0 defeat to Chippenham Town. Maidstone travelled to Dorking Wanderers, suffering a 3-1 loss. And Western Supermare were defeated there by Dover Athletic 2-1. The next games will all be home fixtures for the league's Kent side. The Angels hosting Hemel Hempstead, the Stones will play Salisbury, Dover see Slough Town, and Ebbsfleet will hope for another strong performance, this time against Horsham. Then back up to League 2, and Gillingham drew 1-1 with Barnet after conceding inside the first 20 minutes. They managed to keep themselves to a draw after a classic Dak free kick. The Gills will hope to break their recent draw streak after a 2-2 game against Crawley when they head to challenge Shrewsbury, who are currently in the lower end of the table. Down to the Isthmian Premier, and some strong results here for the Garden of England's team as Chatham keep a clean sheet away from home against Lewis. Folkestone come off as the winners of a 6-goal thriller away at Cheshunt. Ramsgate win the Cross Thames fixture against Canvey Island, a long ferry ride home for them, and Dartford are kept to a draw against Cray Valley Paper Mills. Coming up, Chatham hosts St Albans, Invicta, Chichester City, Ramsgate are on the road against Whitehawk, and the Darts duel Dulwich Hamlet at home. And that's all for this week's Football Roundup. Well, you've been watching Kent Tonight live here on KMTV. And as always, there's more news made just for Kent throughout the evening. And don't forget, you can always keep up to date with the latest news across your county by logging on to kmtv.co.uk. You can also keep us on your social timelines by liking us on Facebook and following us on our TikTok. And as always, if you think you have a